Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome to another episode of Study Guide. Today we're going to try and attempt this Pakistan Studies 205901 paper of May-June 2021. Because I know that your papers are around about the corner, I decided that we should try and do at least a few recent papers. Past paper practice is extremely important, just as it is in any other logical paper. It is also in these exams of Pakistan Studies Islamiyat. So without any further ado, let's begin with our first paper, which is going to be the paper 1, History and Culture Pakistan. Before we step any ahead, I want you to know that your paper is Pakistan Studies 1 205901. The paper 1 of your Pakistan Studies is the History and Culture of Pakistan. So please be very clear about this. They will be specifically asking you to check this on your paper, so be very careful. 01, 02, 21, 22 depends on the variant you guys do in your school or follow up or have been doing in your from your exam board. Coming to the instructions, there are 5 questions in your booklet. 5 questions in your booklet, and you are supposed to answer 3 questions. So out of 5, you have to answer 3 questions. Section A has 1 question. Section A has 1 question, and this is a compulsory must do question. Section B has 4 questions. And the thing, section B has 4 questions, and you must attempt any 2. Alright. Total mark of this paper is 75. It means that all the questions you'll be attempting are going to be 25, 25, 25. 3 25 mark questions you have to attempt in a span of 1 hour 30 minutes, which roundabout makes to be 90 minutes. Remember, in your exam you don't have any extra time, so you have to be very, very specific with your time limit. Now moving on, let's step on to the first question of this paper. Now remember, this section A has 2 sources in it. Source A and source B, and as you can see over here, it says study the sources from the insert carefully and then answer the questions which follow. The question is about Anglo-Indian relationships between 1911 and early 1920s. So over here it says that there is an insert. You will be provided the insert in your center. Let me open it up quickly. So here's the insert. So source A says, we must say that today, behind the ranks of one of the finest armies in the world, there are millions of Indian people ready to cooperate with the British government in defense of an empire to which we are proud to belong. In the presence of a common enemy, be it Germany or anyone else, we set aside our differences. India has always been loyal. Our future development in terms of prosperity and the recognition of our rights as citizens depends on our loyalty now in Britain's hour of need. Adapted from an editorial in the Calcutta Bengali newspaper commenting on India's entry into the First World War in 1914. Remember that this is your source A. Your source is always comprehensive, first off, and then this part of your source, the caption that comes with your sources. Where you have this caption, very important. Even if you have no idea what the source is about, the caption is going to really help you. So source B is a vintage postcard celebrating the coronation of King George V and Queen Mary in Delhi. Be careful over here it says in Delhi. So this is basically talking about the introduction of crown rule. And over here they're talking about the loyalty of the Indians to the crown rule. Moving back to our paper. So your question relative to the source A says, what were the reasons for India supporting Britain in the First World War? So let's mark our key points. India supporting Britain in the First World War. This is a 3 mark question, therefore you have to give 3 points. 3 mark, you have to give 3 points, and you have to choose them from where? From the source. So now, this is a very commonly believed thing, that attempting this source-based question is like a comprehension, which is very true. However, that does not mean that you pick up the passage and put it as it is. You have to pick very relevant points, 3 relevant points from the passage, and then put them in the answer. So the question was that why was India so loyal to the British in the First World War? So let's see. Millions of Indian people ready to cooperate with the British in defense of an empire to which we are proud to belong. In the presence of a common enemy, be it Germany or anyone else, we set aside our differences. India has always been loyal. Our future development in terms of prosperity, and the recognition of our rights as citizens depends on our loyalty now and Britain's hour of need. So, why is India loyal? First off, because they are in defense of an empire to which they are proud to belong. Then, because they have a common enemy. I should have used a different color. Wait. So I changed color. So the presence of a common enemy. Then India has always been loyal. Very important point. This shows that India never gave up its loyalty. It had always been loyal to the British government. Oh, accidentally marked the whole of it. So India has always been loyal. Then it says a future development in terms of prosperity. Very important point. And then lastly it says recognition of our rights as citizens depends on our loyalty to the British. Recognition of our rights as citizens depends on our loyalty now and Britain's hour of need. Very important. Okay, so these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all round about 5 to 6 points in front of you. Any 3 relevant points from these points are going to get you your 3 out of 3 marks. Moving on to our B part now. So in the B part, you're supposed to write 2 paragraphs, and in 2 paragraphs you're supposed to give 2 points that you've picked up from the picture and then develop them according to your own knowledge and inference. So what can we learn from source B about the British presence in the India at this time? So they're talking about the British presence in India. Let me highlight this. So they're talking about the British presence in India, and this is a 5-mark question. And in order to get 5 marks, you're supposed to write 2 paragraphs, both the paragraphs supporting 2 points that you see from the image that they have given you, the source. Let's grab the source really quickly and pick up the things that we can find. So first off, remember you need to pick up any two things directly from the source. One of the things that I can pick up is the amount of sepoys. So sepoys, number 1. Then another thing that I can pick up is this audience. So the audience, very important. So this shows me that I have gotten my 2 points, 1 and 2. Now that I've gotten the points from the picture, I'm going to develop it in my own way. How am I going to develop it? Let's write it down. Okay, so I've written down both the pointers that we can see from the picture over here. This is your pointer 1 and this is your pointer 2. These are things that you can see from the image. These will get you an L2. However, to achieve a L2. To achieve a 5 out of 5 score, you need an L4. In order to step onto L2, you now have to show your understanding and then your contextual knowledge. Understanding and your contextual knowledge. Let me complete these answers and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's how you're going to infer and add in your contextual knowledge to your answer. So we came up with the statements. The first statement was, it can be seen from the source that many sepoys or Indian soldiers are standing in rows and attentive to the coronation happening. How are you going to add more to this statement? This part over here, this one, is this one's. Since from what I have learned, British had a huge army in India. Therefore, it can be inferred that they were willing to support the British Crown rule in India. The first point is this. Remember, inference means that you are going to support your answer or your question in your answer. So, the sepoys were willing to support the British presence in India. Then coming to the second thing that we inferred, or the second thing we saw, was that moreover, a huge audience of Indian people can be seen in the source standing behind the soldiers, which I can guess from the traditional Indian clothing worn by the people. Therefore, it can be inferred that it was a huge ceremony in which many Indians participated and you can even write it, and they were willing to accept the British monarchy in India. So this is going to be your answer for the source based questions, source B questions. Again, I want you to be very careful about this source B question, because firstly it's like given marks, and secondly people make very small mistakes because they forget to infer or they forget to add the contextual knowledge. There can be a lot of other points from the source as well. These are just two that I have managed to pick or infer from the source. Now moving to the next question, which is the C part of section A. We are done with the A part, we are done with the... So as I was saying, we are done with the A part, we're done with the B part, and now we'll be stepping on to the C part, which is a 7-mark question. Explain the importance of the Lucknow Pact of 1916. Remember, now moving on, let me grab a quick clear canvas. The end pages. So coming to section A, C part. So remember, in a 7-mark question you have to give 3 points, 3 paragraphs that are relevant to your question. So the question stated, explain the importance of the Lucknow Pact. Now why was the Lucknow Pact important? So I quickly went ahead and jotted down the 3 points which seemed relevant. So the Lucknow Pact was important because Muslim League and Indian National Congress were cooperating on something. So the relationships between the Muslims and Indians were improving, the Hindus. Then because the Indian National Congress recognized Muslim League as a political party and Muslims as a majority, this was a huge success of the INC and made it very important. This not only improved the opinion that Hindus had of the Muslims, but also improved the opinion that Muslims had of Hindus. Lastly, the INC agreed to give separate electorates to the Muslims. Again, a huge importance and a huge improvement, since if this wouldn't have been possible, then it would have been very difficult for the Muslims to get separate electorates on their own, as it had been since the Mollah Minto and the Montfort reforms. So just like that, you're supposed to do your C part as well, which is the 7-mark part. Again, 3 points, well developed, well established, you get your 7 out of 7. Then your D part is, to what extent had India benefited by the early 1920s from supporting Britain in the First World War? Very, very good question and very tricky. I want you all to take a minute, pause this video for a minute, jot down your points and go ahead. Actually, wait. Before you jot down your point, let me give you a quick summary of how you're supposed to do a 10-mark question. This type of question is again of extreme controversy and confusion among students. They often don't know how to attempt a 10-mark question. It is exactly like a 14-mark question, just that in a 14-mark question you're supposed to give 8 paragraphs, but in a 10-mark question you're supposed to give 6 paragraphs, and in the 6 paragraphs you have 5 points and 1 evaluation. Remember, your 5 points are going to be double-sided, 3:2, 2:3, successes, failures, that sort of thing. So I want you guys to now take a minute, pause the video and come up with the points that you can with the question. Okay, so while you were taking a break, I quickly jotted down the points that made sense to me. So for the first side, which said that it did give the Indians some benefit, I wrote in 1917, India was promised self-government very soon, and in 1919, separate electorates were given to the Indians in the Government Act of 1919. However, in the Government Act of 1919 gave more power to the British, since it was a diarchy. Similarly, minorities were not given separate electorates. Only the Hindus were, or the Indians were in general. So the minorities were still left at the back end. And lastly, it did not, since the Rowlatt Act was also introduced as a part of the Government of India Act in 1919, because the Rowlatt Act really seized the freedom of the Indians at that time. So this is how you can determine your D part, and in the final evaluation you will choose any side you want to. I would preferably choose the did not part and give further explanation. You can use the Amritsar massacre point, you can use any of the further point which you have not mentioned in your 5 points, and write a very solid explanation for this, evaluation for this. So moving back, we are also done with our D part of this section A. So very gladly we have managed to finish 25 marks of this paper. So we have managed to conjure up a whole section in this video. Now I'm going to divide this video into two parts, since I will not be able to do it all in one video, and it might be a little exhausting for you guys as well. So the first one we'll do section A, and the second one inshallah we'll do section B. I'll try to discuss maximum section B as possible, since it has a lot of questions. But if you guys can, then my suggestion would be that if you watch this video, go find the paper, or maybe just take the screenshot from here, try doing section B, make the charts or the outline the section B questions yourself, and try to attempt it as much as possible. If you are able to do the most recent papers very well, get up to 65 out of 75, wait, yeah. So if you're able to achieve 65 marks out of the 75, 65 to 70, if that's your consistency from 2020 to 2021 papers, you are surely going to get an A star inshallah in your exam too. So I really suggest you go and check out these recent papers, match with the thresholds that are given on the official CAIE website, and inshallah I'll see you guys again with section B very soon. Allah Hafiz, take care, and I hope this video helped. If it did, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment down below if you have any sort of query. I would love to clear it out in the comments or anywhere possible. And except that, if you have any specific request, you can also leave it down in the comments. I will try to cater for it as soon as possible as well. So Allah Hafiz, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and best of luck for your exams.